Hi, my name is Holly, and I'm 17 years old. Have you ever worried that your appearance does not meet the standards of beauty? Crooked nose, big ears, too thin or fat? As if complexes consume you and you can't live a normal life? Absolutely everything rests on this problem. My problem was my breast size, or rather, in its absence. Watch the rest of this video and you will find out what difficulties you can face when you do not have breasts. From the outside, it may seem that I have an ideal life. I have a great relationship with my parents. I have an older brother with whom we are real friends. I am studying at a prestigious college and do not need anything. But there is one problem that is poisoning my life. I'm 17 and I have no breast. Absolutely at all. I will say right away, the lack of breast for a girl is a disaster. While my classmates collect admiring glances from the guys, no one pays attention to me. Especially him. This is Mike, and he's 19, the coolest guy in college. All the girls dream of dating him. And he is only in a relationship with his bike. And I also dream of buying a motorcycle. Maybe my love for my iron friend will help me get closer to him. I knew that Mike would be at the party this Saturday. He would rock out on the dance floor, and I would just stand by the wall all night as usual. What am I supposed to do at a party? Who wants to go with someone like me when there are so many busty girls with toned asses around? They are everywhere. On the streets, in magazines, and on social networks. Everywhere. Have you noticed how trends make people blindly pursue fashion, losing their identity? Therefore, I try not to look at models from magazines. I immediately want to hang myself. Or go to a monastery. Only there the size of the breast does not matter. I decided that I was going to go to a party, and if no one paid attention to me, then I wouldn't go back to the topic of communicating with guys. The next day, I went to the store in search of an outfit. It turned out that even the sexiest dress didn't look good on the board. The saleswoman tactfully advised me to choose a push-up bra, but even this did not help. If there's nothing to push up, then you don't need a bra. Almost sobbing, I stumbled out of the fitting room. Some hotties pushed me, saying that I was in their way, and even addressed me as a guy. What a guy I am. I'm a girl, you hear? A girl! Just without breast. I was really angry. Have you ever wanted to howl with resentment and injustice? Then you will understand me for sure. I tried to find a solution to my problem on the internet. The advice was delusional. But I had no way out. Either I would grow my breast, or I would forever remain a useless virgin who was also confused with a guy. Of course, the easiest thing would be to go to a surgeon, but this is not something to think about until you are 21. And I needed my breast here and now. After reviewing the forums where everyone vied with each other that cabbage increased the breast, I leaned on cabbage salad. My tits didn't grow. But after a day on the cabbage diet, I was sick to my stomach. I decided not to stumble and try another folk remedy, honey. Taking the word of the girl with the forms of the public, I began to smear my breast. While I was standing in the bathroom completely naked, Alex decided to wash his hair and caught me right during my honey experiments. Now he's teasing me with B. God, how awkward I felt. Nothing worked for me. I didn't think I would stoop to this, but I decided to put cotton wool in my bra. This was a disaster. Adding socks to the cotton wool, I looked at myself in the mirror and burst into tears of resentment and despair. Well, who would look at a girl with socks in a bra? I didn't even notice Alex come into the room. It was good for him. He spent all day riding with girls on his bike, and he often hung out with Mike. I must have looked pathetic, even if my thick-skinned brother was trying to comfort me. When I was completely lost, I told Alex everything. About my complexes, about cabbage, about busty competitors, and about Mike. Alex comforted me as much as he could. He said that men didn't pay attention to our breasts, and the main thing was kindness, care, and loyalty, and appearance was secondary. My brother convinced me that guys only met with busty girls for sex, and married good and reliable ones. Believing my brother, I decided to write Mike. But as soon as I looked at his profile on the social network, I felt that I was going mad with anger again. On the page was a photo of him being hugged by a real beauty. Kindness and care? These guys only serve models with chicken brains and huge breasts. I was back on the internet. Hell, I'll find a way to increase my breasts, no matter what it takes. Apparently, someone heard my prayers. Soon, I came across a website that sold breast augmentation cream. Have you ever been willing to do anything for your dream? I have. So before I finished reading the instructions, I placed an order, spending all the money I had saved for the motorcycle on the purchase. It was hard to give up the dream of a bike, but my chest was more important, and I didn't let myself go limp. When I received the package, I immediately locked myself in the bathroom. I didn't want Alex to catch me again. After applying the cream, I was looking forward to a quick result, and it was. But not the one I wanted. By the evening, I felt bad. A rash started on my chest. My head was terribly dizzy, and I could barely get out of bed. After waiting for the result to decline, I decided to try a second chance. I might have done something wrong. An hour later, I felt bad. My entire chest burned and blistered. I remember my brother's scared face. He noticed that I felt bad and called an ambulance. I was hospitalized with an acute allergy attack. The doctor said that if I continued the experiment, I would have serious health problems. In the morning, Alex came to my room. He yelled at me terribly, telling me off like a little girl. I was terribly ashamed. I realized that I had almost ruined myself. After a week in the hospital, I came home and sat on my bed for half the day with a sour expression on my face. My brother decided to cheer me up and told me that Mike had come to visit. What did you say? Well, when my brother told him why I was in the hospital, Mike was tactful. While I was burning with shame, pulling the blanket up to my chin, Mike looked at my drawings. It was a nightmare. I had his portraits all over my room. He probably wouldn't recover from the shock for a long time. Surprisingly, Mike cheered me up. It turned out that while I was in the hospital, Mike came to visit Alex and already saw his portraits in my room. That was when Alex told him. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. My secret was discovered. He was, of course, shocked at first, but Mike didn't laugh at my complexes. He even told me that his cousin Kate had the other side of the problem. She was often hindered by her large breast. Yes, she was the beauty in the photo that made me so angry. It turned out that Kate sometimes found it difficult to choose her underwear and clothes, and it was hard for her to sleep on her stomach. So I was even lucky to some extent. Mike suggested that we all meet sometime because he believed that talking to her would make me feel better. Was I happy? Of course. Now I got what I had always wanted, even if in another way. And what to hide, I still hoped that Mike and I would be together. But unfortunately, I didn't manage to hook up with him. We had a frank conversation. He appreciates my feelings and is just not ready for a serious relationship right now. We decided we'd rather be friends. But I'm not upset. Because of him, I have a best friend, Kate. In confidence, she told me that as a teenager, she was terribly shy of her prematurely grown breast. And even now, she would like to be as small as I am, so as not to spend a lot of time choosing comfortable underwear. I've realized that girls develop differently. Someone is thin, someone is fat, someone has a rich soul, and someone like me. There is no perfect figure, but everyone dreams of changing themselves. I've realized that there's no pleasing us, the girls, so I do not see the point of complaining anymore. If you like my story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Write in the comments, what complexes are you struggling with? Maybe we'll write a story about you. And stay yourself.
Hi, I'm Mandy. Have you ever heard a saying that winning fame is simple? You just have to risk everything? Well, I believed it and went through a bit of a hellish time, but here's the full story. I grew up on the outskirts of a small town. Real backwater, a school, couple of stores, police office, prairies about. My mom and dad had a farm. I think my family owned it since the times the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Family business, that was what was in stock for me after school. I wanted to break free, to leave this shabby town, to travel, to get famous. I helped Mom with her chickens and goats since I started walking and helped Dad with crops. My only outlet was my cousin's old guitar. So I graduated. By that time, I played pretty well and knew music sheets, and I thought this was my future. What was there for me as an agricultural major anyway? I decided that with a little cunning, I told my parents that I went to college and went straight for the city. That was my chance to become a musician. I never had a doubt about my potential. Have you ever left everything and moved away like that? As soon as I arrived, I rented a studio to record my first hit. I sent the recording to country producers and waited to wake up famous. A month went by and I didn't get a single reply. Perhaps solo country artists weren't the thing right now. I found another studio, recorded a song with a hired band, much better. Sent it out again. Yet another month went by and I started to run out of money. I wasn't able to pay even for the modest living any longer, and I had two choices. Go home and confess it all to my parents, or get out on the streets. Gosh, I'm such a dumb idiot. I chose the wrong way. I sang on the streets all day long and paid for a hostel with the meager money that I made from tips. When I made close to nothing, I had to sleep in the park. Music was no longer a pleasure for me. I almost hated my guitar. When I had to play hours on end in any weather, I did it just to scrape up a few bucks for food. Once a man approached me. He offered me a job in his bar for a very small wage, but promised me to get me a room to live in. I thought my dreams were coming true, but they didn't, of course. I was just serving drinks, doing dishes, mopping floors. He paid me $400 at the end of the month. But immediately I took $300 for rent. I realized I was a slave. I wasn't really forced into these conditions, but leaving meant going back onto the street. I lived like this for 2 months. In a couple of months, my boss hit on me. I said no, and he kicked me right out. That was the last straw. A guitar, a backpack, and a few bucks I spent on food. Nothing else. I realized it was time to go home. I'll just tell my parents I was kicked out of the university. I tried to make some money for the ticket home, next to the bus stop, but I was told that I'd have to pay a fine. I was in despair. I sat stupefied for the rest of the day. Closer to evening, I saw an elderly lady drop her wallet and not notice it. Here it was, my salvation. I jumped to grab the wallet and hid it under my sweatshirt, but seeing the old lady looking for her wallet to buy a ticket, I became ashamed. Did the city really turn me into a monster? From a country girl, I gave her back her wallet. She thanked me, gave me a few bucks. I cried in gratitude and the woman asked me what the matter was. I told her and she said, "Oh, silly you, call your parents right this minute." She even gave me her phone. They weren't mad at me. As soon as they learned I was on a bus station in the city with no money, they were so worried they couldn't even stay angry. I was so happy to hug them again. I was so ashamed that I stayed put for a few months, helped them around the farm. Read books to enroll into an agriculture course for real right now. Then Mom found a few nameless CDs among my things, and I remembered the recordings and demos I made. They weren't bad at all. My parents liked them too, and suddenly I knew there's a small radio station in our town. I sent my CDs there, and I heard my songs on air that very evening. Our own singer in our town, our backwater town. That was big news for them. I never expected such feedback. The radio station was pelted with calls and emails, and they even invited me to be a guest at a talk show one evening. I talked about my adventures, and then kids from a neighboring town found me through the radio. They had their own band and were happy to ask me to sing with them. It's not like we're world famous or anything, but we get around and people know us, and if I learned something from my farm life, it's never give up on work. So we have a long way to go. I suppose with a bit of thinking, it's still possible to find yourself. Have your dreams ever come true in an unexpected way like mine? Please share your stories in comments below and subscribe to our channel to know when we post something new. Like our story if you're also into creativity and can relate to a country girl like me. Have a great day and may your creative experience be a positive one.
Hi, my name is Mia, and I'm 19. Have you ever appeared in public naked and dirty, as if you'd escaped from slavery and traveled for many months to the mainland? Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how to disgrace yourself even more when you have already gone out in your underwear, and how to survive it. I once organized a pajama party for my friends in my apartment. We were all in tops and underpants, having fun, fooling around and dancing. It was a wonderful evening. When we got hungry, we decided to order pizza. I was so hungry. I wanted to get my piece as soon as possible and put it in my mouth. Finally, the courier called. He was somewhere nearby, but he couldn't find the right entrance to the house. I said I'd be right down. I thought about what to wear. I was terribly fussed. I put on a longer t-shirt, but my pants were missing. I decided to wear a short skirt, but then the courier called and said that he was in a hurry to the next client. I was even more nervous. I hate it when someone is waiting for me, and even more so in a hurry. I talked to him on the phone and made up that I already saw him. I was already coming. I spoke and ran out of the apartment in what I was wearing. I pressed hard the button to call the elevator, but it didn't light up. It broke. Anything but that. After all, I live on the 14th floor. I ran down the stairs one step at a time. On the 6th floor, I met two men with a huge sofa. It was impossible to disperse, and I had to press myself against the wall. I felt my back and arm lean against something wet, and only then I remembered that the house was being renovated and that all the walls were painted. Have you ever gotten into paint so much that you cannot immediately change your clothes? How could I wipe it off? Share your life hacks in the comments. I couldn't go back. The courier was calling, but I didn't pick up the phone so as to not annoy him. Finally, I reached the 1st floor and ran into the street as if scalded. Only then did I understand why the courier was hurrying me. There was a terrible downpour. It couldn't be worse. Out of breath, smeared with paint. I was now a wet chicken. This was definitely not my day. I was ready to burst into tears. As bad luck would have it, the courier wasn't in sight. So now I started calling him. I took out my phone and it accidentally slipped right out of my hands into a wet, dirty flower bed. I yelled at the whole yard in a rage. Everything was against me. I was wet from head to toe, dirty, hungry, and now this? I bent down to pick up my phone and accidentally caught my head on a bush. I couldn't break free right away and had to leave a bunch of my own hair in it. And it, in turn, rewarded me with foliage that didn't suit me at all. I cleaned the phone from dirt with my bare hands. Well, now I was just like a pig. Fortunately, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. A courier appeared ahead of me, looking at me strangely and approaching me very hesitantly. And when I caught his eyes on my groin, only then did I realize I ran out in my underwear. No, I didn't want the ground to swallow me up. I wouldn't mind if the ground swallowed up all the people who saw me that moment. I stood and stared blankly into his eyes, cracking at the seams with anger and humiliation, and thanks to the rain, without it, I would have burned with shame, in the literal sense of the word. How could a wet fool get out of the situation in only shorts, soiled in paint and dirt? I decided to make a poker face and say that everything was okay. I brazenly snatched the pizza box, opened it, and greedily chewed a piece of hot pizza. It was delicious as hell. But this was not the end. It turned out that I forgot the money to pay the courier. It took a lot of work to unlock a wet phone and make a payment through it. And all the time, the courier was looking at me as if he were the worst of the two of us. When my friends found out about it, they laughed wildly, and I didn't feel like laughing. I was mad at them, at myself, at the courier, and at the fucking pizza. All in all, it was the worst day of my life. And you have no idea how much time I spent in the shower after that. In the morning, I got a text from Riley, a second-floor neighbor I'd liked for a long time. He sent me a picture of me standing in my underwear eating pizza on the street. The caption was also attached. Well, was it delicious? And those idiotic smiley faces of raucous laughter that I can't stand. I found myself in shock. It turned out that not only the courier and the two buggers who dragged the sofa saw all this disgrace, but also Riley and the whole house. No, the worst day was definitely this, not the previous one. What should a person do who has disgraced himself almost to the whole world? Run away from the country? Go underground? Write in the comments. I couldn't think of anything better to do than send a bunch of threats back. I said that if Riley put the photo in the public domain, I would personally kill him with my bare hands. He read the message, but didn't respond. A couple of days later, I went to the store. It seemed to me that everyone was looking at me, whispering and laughing. Moreover, at one of the checkout stands, I saw my neighbor, Paparazzi. He noticed it, smiled, and came toward me. I was sure that he still posted the photo, and now everyone would laugh at me for the rest of my life. I couldn't help myself, and I ran to him with accusations and screams. All the customers and staff were looking at us. It was quite a scene. I even pushed him a couple times. And most importantly, this muttonhead listened to me, smiled, and did not even try to justify himself, as if on purpose, to make me even more turned on. I ran out of the store all red, and I was sure I would never go back. There was only one thought in my head: to run to my apartment, lock myself in it, and never come out again. I don't know what was more insulting, that I was such a fool and couldn't control myself, or that he was such a bastard. I ran straight home up the stairs, so as not to go in the elevator crying, because I would be seen. But I saw the movers again. Only now they were carrying something down. I boldly pressed myself against the wall, because it had long since dried up, right? No. It had been painted with a second layer, and now it was all over my back. Oh, what words I thought of those movers! And most importantly, neither they nor the furniture were smeared with paint. Only I. Again, I was the only one. I came home angry as hell, but then my friend called me. In response to my complaints, she recalled an old story. Once I came to school in a skirt so tight that it cracked from a move. Of course, so then everyone saw my underpants. But I survived that shame, so I would survive this one. She suggested that I go to Riley and make up with him. Of course, I was against it, but she said that then he could delete the photo and at least fewer people would see it. 15 minutes later, I was standing on the doorstep of his apartment with a sour face and telling what I had to go through that terrible evening. Riley held on tight to keep from laughing, but finally gave up and whinnied at the top of his voice. I froze in horror, so brazen to laugh at what I'd been through. And I'd liked this guy for so long. What was I hoping for? I ran back to my flat so I wouldn't have to yell at him like a fool again. There were already angry tears in my eyes, so I didn't have much time. I would have said something to him. Riley quickly caught up with me. He said he was very sorry, but what happened was really comical, to say the least. He apologized with such a pitiful look that I calmed down. To be honest, the story was rather ridiculous, and he wasn't at all angry that I shouted at him. And then he admitted that he liked me for a long time and just wanted to attract my attention with that photo and get a reason to communicate. And it worked in the end. And he didn't change his mind. Riley and I have been dating for a month. I am happy that I have a guy with a great, in his opinion, sense of humor. But we have enough in common without that. In addition, he always supports me and helps me look at life easier. Probably only such an optimist will stand my character. If you like my story, please like and subscribe to the channel. And the bell will not allow you to miss new episodes, in case something else happens to me. I wish you to be positive and strong in spirit. See you soon!
Hi, I'm Carol. How far would you go to be beautiful? It turned out I was ready to go very far, and it almost killed me. My mom and dad have regular slim builds, but I wasn't like them. In middle school, I weighed over 150 pounds. In elementary school, I didn't have many friends because of my weight. Nothing changed in middle school. I tried to prove to my parents that I can't bear being big. It was futile. No help, not even support. They gave me nothing, so I had to act myself. Dieting and sports, it sounds simple enough, but it's easier said than done. After a month of hard training, I found myself with muscles, but all the fat stayed too. Dieting. This is a whole other matter. I tried over 10 diet plans, even the extreme ones from the internet. No matter what I did, what I ate or not ate, I didn't lose weight. Damn sides, belly, hips, they all stayed with me. I went to a doctor, but he said I was healthy, and it was my own fault that I didn't lose weight. The doctor said I developed depression and it was progressing. Once I was scrolling through my social network feed, I stumbled across a weight loss group. I searched it through and found ads about weight loss pills. The feedback was pretty good, so I ordered some. This was like 6 months worth of pills. I'd be done with middle school right when I'd run out. The pills arrived in a few days and I started casually taking them. I lost a few pounds over the next month. It worked, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to lose as much as possible before high school so that I'd have friends and I'd double my daily doses. And that worked. I shucked 10 pounds more the following months. I was ecstatic, but I also started having some health issues. I was constantly feeling dizzy, had headaches. I thought it was payback for the weight loss, and I just had to hang on for a few more months. But over the 3rd month, I didn't lose a pound. Moreover, I started gaining back. How is that possible? Has your life ever crumbled right before your eyes? I thought my last chance at happiness was slipping away from me. I went back to that group where I found the pill ads. There were more ads for more pills. I ordered them all. I couldn't stop halfway. I wanted a slim body and I had to have it. Now I ate a handful of pills every day. My health got worse. My eyes turned yellowish. I stopped brushing my hair because it would all stay on the brush. I had aches in my stomach and my head all the time. Sometimes I'd vomit. I had stomach spasms that made me feel like I was suffocating, and my hearing would stop. I hope you guys never experience anything like that. So I quit the pills. I needed help. Mom thought that I had a stomach bug and took me to the doctor. The doctor said I could be having problems with my heart because of my weight. I had to take a few tests to prove it. I went home and I thought that I had it straight. It was my fat. That was the culprit. First, it was ruining my life, and now it was killing me, striking at my internal organs. I got my pills out and started gorging on them. I only had one thought running through my head. I had to kill the fat, whatever it took. When I was swallowing the last of the pills, I started feeling faint. That was it, I thought. The fat is done with. I ended up in the hospital. My parents were there with me. Noticing I was awake, they called a doctor. The 3 of them stood next to my bed, and I heard that dreadful word, suicide. I realized what it must have looked like, but no! I explained to my parents that I had been taking weight loss pills, and when they stopped working, I increased the dose. The doctor explained it all. My symptoms pointed to medical anorexia. He also said that I was in for a long treatment and intravenous sustenance. Mom started crying again, and Dad argued with the doctor, saying that I couldn't have anorexia because I wasn't skinny. A few days later, I was back at home. I looked in the mirror, looked at my big body, and couldn't wrap it around my brain. How could I have anorexia? It's impossible. Anorexic people are thin, slim, nothing like me, a fat ball. I hated myself even more than before. My parents insisted on homeschooling me, and I got even more weight with all the meds. Sounds depressing, right? don't worry. My life has turned for the better, but not in the way you think. I'm one of the most popular girls in college now. I'm a star football player now. When I got back to being healthy, I went to the gym to get back in shape. I got into it fast and decided to do professional sports. No, I didn't lose weight, probably never will, but therapy helped me realize that my life is more important than my clothes size, especially when I have a hobby and other things to live for. Please don't make my mistakes. You can get yourself killed trying to make things better. Please subscribe and hit the bell button to learn when we release our next video. And like this story if you want YouTube to show it to more people. Have a great day!
Hi, I'm Nikki, and I'm 17. Do you like to comb your hair, braid it, do a ponytail, maybe a haircut or color? Lucky you, because I can't do any of it. I don't have any hair at all. How did this happen? No, I didn't face cancer, and I wasn't shaved by aliens, and I never served in the army. It was a terrible accident at school. Let's start from the beginning. I was never too popular. You know, there's always that invisible kid in the school that no one would invite to a party, ever. Well, here I am, the lucky one. There are pros and cons in being unseen. You know, like, I can say hello to someone, and they would just look through me in response. I am always ignored, all by myself, surrounded by books instead of real people. I even used to like it until the day that changed my whole life. By the end of first semester, I signed up for an advanced course in chemistry. I was always interested in it. I wanted to be a doctor. I still want to, and I will be. So once we had a practical lesson, a whole 45 minutes alone with reagents, flasks, a huge distiller, and 2 noisy classmates. Mr. Anderson, our teacher, was so tired of listening to their stupid jokes and trying to maintain classroom discipline that by the end, he just gave up and sat down with his eyes closed. Suddenly, Mr. Anderson got called to the director's office. What does your class look like when the teacher is gone? My class is a complete mayhem. The chief bully, Dick Kennedy, immediately made a terrible fuss. He grabbed his test tube, filled with distilled water, and spilled it on the guy next to him. That one made a terrible face and began to hiss loudly. Well, of course, we had a whole lesson in acids, and Mr. Anderson showed us how to mix liquids so that caustic drops wouldn't scald our hands. For demonstration, he dipped a piece of apple into a bottle of hydrochloric acid and explained what happened in our stomach due to this very dissolution. Several test tubes were lined up on the teacher's desk. I knew that we all had water or weak alkali solutions in our test tubes. But I didn't like that the guys started to spray them and pretend to get burnt. They hissed and screamed louder and louder, and everything around us was wet. Our bags, our clothes, and the notebooks on our desks. I asked them to stop, but they did not pay any attention, and the teacher didn't come. And it did. Actually, at first, I felt that Dick, who was sitting behind me, throw something at his friend, but unfortunately, it hit me. Or maybe, fortunately, because if I hadn't been in its way, the acid would hit Francis right in his face. My hair got wet and my skin started to burn. Dick screamed in fear as he saw shreds of my hair fall on the floor. It was getting more and more painful, but I knew I shouldn't touch my head. Yes, I was incredibly scared, but the acid that burnt my skin almost did not hurt me. Almost. The teacher came in just as I started to scream. He looked at me and got scared too. Everyone was terrified. The back of my head was wet with blood. The school nurse came running. They calmed me down, washed my skin with a lot of water, then with alkali solution. There was almost no hair left. Some patches on my temple and forehead had to be removed because I looked like an elderly stand-up comedian. For the first week, I just couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I had never considered myself a beauty, but now that my once blonde hair was gone for good, every glance in the mirror hurt. I simply couldn't recognize that bald monster covered with the scaled burns. Mom and Dad even removed or covered all the mirrors in the house, especially for me. But it's impossible to hide from myself and other people forever. Dick tried to apologize several times, but I didn't feel strong enough to accept his apology. How could I forgive him? My mom and I went to the wig store when my wounds healed enough. We chose several wigs made of natural hair, an artificial one, and one with pink pigtails, one more simple, and one with bangs. I even had a little fun trying them on one by one. Ladies in the store kept telling me how good I looked, how pretty I was, but that couldn't bring my hair back. That day, I realized that I'm going to wear a wig for the rest of my life. Of course, if I don't want to embarrass others with my bald head. Have you ever wanted to hide in your room and never leave it? That was my only wish. But you can't hide out forever. I wasn't thrilled with the idea to put on my head a wig every morning. It looked so unnatural. As time went on, I began to get used to it, but there was a new problem. As if there weren't enough already. Wearing this mop of hair, I felt sweaty and uncomfortable. It didn't hold well and bounced during sports, but I was too afraid to take it off. Soon, Dick stopped portraying remorse and began to bully everyone again. I tried my best to ignore him, but Dick acted like a total dick. I annoyed him, as if he blamed me for what had happened. How dare he behave like that? I felt awful, being dragged in these endless quarrels and shouting back. At least I became more self-confident after what happened. I felt like I had nothing to lose. Once he said that I could stop deceiving myself and others. He grabbed my wig and then just pulled it off in front of the whole class. I froze without my last layer of protection. Everyone stared at me so openly and viciously that my knees were trembling. And then Doris got up from her seat, although we never even spoke to each other. She just got up and came over to me, putting herself between me and Dick. She did so without a word, and without a single word, she held out her hand. She took the wig out of Dick's hand and slapped his face with it. Then the other girls stood up. They shielded me, looking down at Dick and shaking hands with me. I felt for the first time that I was not alone. It was amazing. Dick could not stand the silent pressure and left. He just stormed out of the class, slamming the door. I wanted to put my wig on. It was awkward to stand surrounded by my pretty classmates with my bald head. But Doris stopped me. "There's no need for such a beauty to wear someone else's hair," she said, and patted my shoulder. "This is your new style." I knew that I was different from other girls, but I still couldn't see any positives in it. Neither could I go on living as before. The more I tried to hide my baldness, the more awkward everyone felt, including me. That day, I went to Doris's house after school. She and her friends did some magic on me. They experimented with clothes and makeup. I didn't understand much of that fashion slang. Ha ha. What, a monster looked at me from the mirror? Well, my bald head was nothing comparing to what the girls painted on my face. No way! I washed it all off. But at home, I tried to put on my own makeup. I could no longer be mistaken for a mousy little thing. Bald with a pair of new earrings and bright makeup, I was a goddamn style icon. People paid me attention, yes, but I actually liked it. I owned that attention. I controlled it now. Less than a month later, Dick asked me to go to the prom with him. Yeah, 4 get it. I have already promised to go to the prom with the one who shaves his head. Let's see what happens. I'm going to be a doctor, maybe work in a burn center. And meantime, I post my brand new looks on Instagram. I think this is important, not only for me, but for everyone who has a difficulty accepting his or her unconventional appearance. If you enjoyed my story, please like it, and you will find many other cool ones on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe and push the bell to stay tuned. Have a good one.